There is a moment, right before you react to someone who has wronged you, where you actually have a choice. Even though it rarely feels that way. Your heart rate spikes, your jaw tightens, the words are already forming in your throat, and it feels like the response is happening to you rather than through you. This is the illusion the Stoics spent their whole philosophy dismantling. Epictetus opened his entire body of work with a single dividing line: some things are up to us, and some things are not. Other people's words, their moods, their rudeness, their choices, none of that is up to us. What is up to us is our judgment, our will, our response. Everything else is, in his words, not our own. Think about how much energy we spend trying to control the uncontrollable. We rehearse arguments with people who aren't in the room. We replay a sarcastic comment from 3 days ago, refining the comeback we should have said. We try through sheer force of frustration to make someone else be reasonable, be kind, be fair, as if our irritation were a lever we could pull to change their behavior. It rarely works, and even when it does, we've paid for it with our own peace of mind. The Stoics weren't advocating passivity here. They weren't saying, let people walk over you, or pretend the disrespect didn't happen. They were making a precise, almost surgical distinction. The other person's behavior is their department. Your response is yours. A rude comment is like weather. You don't get a vote on whether it rains, but you absolutely get a vote on whether you bring an umbrella. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly when he reminded himself that no one can force his mind to act against its own nature unless his mind allows it. The insult only lands if you hand over the power to be insulted. This is liberating in a way that's almost disorienting the first time you really absorb it. It means the short-tempered manager, the passive-aggressive sibling, the friend who cancels plans at the last minute. None of them actually have the power to make you bitter, anxious, or small. They can behave badly. That part is out of your hands completely. But what you do with it, whether you meet it with reactivity or with steadiness, that part has never left your hands, no matter how loudly the other person insists otherwise. There's a phrase that has quietly worked its way from ancient Stoic texts into modern self-help books, business seminars, and even Navy SEAL training manuals. The obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote something close to this nearly 2,000 years ago, and the idea is deceptively simple. What stands in the way of action advances action. What used to block the path is now the path itself. In other words, the very thing that seems designed to stop you is often the exact material you need to become stronger. Now apply that to people. Not to mountains, not to setbacks, not to abstract adversity. To actual human beings who irritate, provoke, and exhaust you. The Stoics didn't see the difficult coworker or the hostile relative as an unfortunate interruption to the real work of building character. They saw that person as the training ground itself. You don't build patience by reading about patience. You build it in the 15th minute of a conversation with someone who refuses to listen. You don't build composure in a vacuum. You build it when someone is trying, deliberately or not, to take it from you. This reframe changes everything about how you walk into hard interactions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is this here to develop in me?" The rude customer becomes a rep for your patience. The manipulative colleague becomes a rep for your discernment. The relative who pushes every button you have becomes, whether you like it or not, the single best teacher you have for equanimity. Because no book, no meditation retreat, no quiet Sunday morning will ever test your composure quite like they do. This isn't about pretending difficult people are secretly good for you in some saccharine, everything happens for a reason way. The Stoics were not naive optimists. They knew some people are simply corrosive, and some situations should be exited entirely. But for the encounters you can't avoid, the boss you still have to work for, the family member you still have to see at holidays, the choice isn't whether the friction exists. It's whether you let that friction grind you down or sharpen you. Think of a blacksmith's blade. It isn't shaped by soft materials. It's shaped by fire, by hammering, by resistance. No one becomes steady by only encountering steady people. Steadiness, like a blade's edge, is forged specifically in resistance. Which means the very people testing your patience right now may be doing more for your character than every peaceful, easy relationship in your life combined. Epictetus said it about as plainly as it can be said. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. Read that again, slowly, because almost every argument you've ever had, every sleepless night spent replaying someone's comment, every flash of rage at a stranger's rudeness, all of it traces back to this one idea. It was never really the event that hurt you. It was the story you told yourself about the event. Picture two people receiving the exact same curt email from a colleague. One reads it and thinks, "They're clearly overwhelmed today. I'll follow up later." The other reads the identical words and thinks, "They're disrespecting me. They think I'm beneath them." This is the last straw. Same email, same sender, same 60 seconds of typing. But one person walks away mildly amused, and the other walks away furious for the rest of the afternoon. The email didn't do that. The judgment did. This is not a minor technicality. It's the entire architecture of Stoic psychology. The Stoics divided experience into the event itself and our judgment of the event, and they insisted these are two completely separate things, even though they feel fused together in the moment. Someone cuts you off in traffic. That's the event. Value, neutral, over in an instant. But then your mind adds the narrative. They did that on purpose. They think their time matters more than mine. People are so inconsiderate these days. None of that narrative was in the original event. You wrote it in real time, without even noticing you were the author. This matters enormously when it comes to difficult people, because most of our suffering with them isn't caused by their actual behavior. It's caused by the meaning we assign to it. Your mother-in-law's comment stings not simply because of the words, but because you've decided it means she doesn't respect you, doesn't approve of you, never will. Your coworker's silence in a meeting isn't just silence. You've decided it means they're plotting against you, or that they think your idea was foolish. Strip away the interpretation and look at the bare event again. Words were said, or not said. That's it. Everything else, the sting, the spiral, the grudge you'll carry for a week, is furniture your own mind moved in. None of this means difficult people are imaginary or that their behavior doesn't matter. It means you have far more authority over your own suffering than it feels like in the moment, because the raw event and your interpretation of it are two different things. And only one of them was ever actually yours to write. Imagine two soldiers in the same battle. One fights bravely, holds the line, protects his fellow soldiers, and dies. The other fights carelessly, breaks formation, abandons his post, and survives. By any ordinary measure of winning, the survivor comes out ahead. He's alive. But the Stoics would tell you the dead soldier won something the living one didn't. He acted with virtue. And to the Stoics, that was the only victory that ever actually counted. This sounds almost absurd in a culture obsessed with outcomes. We're trained from childhood to measure success by results. Who got the promotion? Who won the argument? Who came out looking better in front of everyone? But the Stoics built their entire ethical system on a radical premise. The only thing truly good is a virtuous will. Not wealth, not reputation, not even physical safety. Those things are what they called indifference. Nice to have, but not what makes a life good or bad. What makes a life good is whether you acted with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control, regardless of what happened next. Apply this to a difficult person in your life. Say a colleague publicly humiliates you in a meeting, twisting your words to make you look incompetent in front of your boss. The ordinary way to keep score is, did you humiliate them back? Did you make them look foolish in return? Did you win the room? But the Stoic scoreboard is entirely different. It asks, did you respond with composure? Did you speak truthfully without matching their cruelty? Did you protect your own integrity even while they abandoned theirs? If the answer is yes, you have already won, completely and irreversibly. No matter what they said next, no matter whether anyone else in the room even noticed. This is liberating, because it means your victory no longer depends on the other person's cooperation. If winning meant making the difficult person apologize, or getting the last word, you'd be handing them the power to determine whether you succeed or fail, which is exactly backwards. But if winning means, did I act with integrity? That victory is entirely within your control, sealed the moment you choose your response, immune to whatever chaos the other person brings. This doesn't mean you become passive or let people mistreat you without consequence. Courage and justice are virtues too, and sometimes the virtuous response is a firm boundary, a direct confrontation, or walking away entirely. What it means is that your measure of success shifts from, did I beat them, to did I stay true to who I am while dealing with them? And that is a contest you can win every single time, against every single difficult person you will ever meet, regardless of how the encounter outwardly unfolds. Marcus Aurelius had a peculiar mental exercise he returned to again and again in his private journal, the one we now call meditations. He would imagine looking down at earth from far above, watching armies march, watching weddings and funerals, watching entire civilizations rise and crumble, all from a vantage point so high that individual human dramas shrank into something almost comically small. He called it the view from above, and he used it deliberately, almost like a tool he kept in his pocket for moments when something small was threatening to feel enormous. Think about what this actually does to a difficult person's power over you. Up close, your coworker's snide comment in a meeting feels massive. It replays in your head for the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week. But zoom out. Picture that meeting from 100 feet above the building, then a mile above the city. Then from orbit, where the building itself is invisible, along with everyone in it, along with the entire argument that felt so consuming 10 minutes ago. Marcus Aurelius wasn't being morbid or nihilistic when he did this. He was recalibrating scale, because he understood that almost all provocation depends entirely on proximity. The closer you stand to a problem, the larger it looms. Step back, and it shrinks. Not because it stopped mattering, but because you can finally see it in proportion to everything else that exists. There's a version of this you can use in real time, without needing a mountaintop or a meditation retreat. When someone cuts you off in traffic, ask yourself, will I remember this in a year? Will I remember it tomorrow? Usually the honest answer is no, and yet, in the moment, your body reacts as though this is a 5-alarm emergency demanding your full attention. The Stoics weren't asking you to stop caring about things. They were asking you to care about things in the correct proportion, rather than letting every irritation expand to fill the entire space of your attention. This is especially powerful with difficult people, because their behavior often demands to be treated as the most important thing happening in your life right now. Someone raises their voice at you, and suddenly nothing else exists except that confrontation. But zoom out 10 years. Zoom out to the scale of your whole life, or further still, to the scale of history. Countless people have said cruel, foolish things to countless other people, and civilizations continued regardless. This person, this comment, this moment, it is real, but it is not as large as it feels from 3 inches away. And the moment you gain that distance, most of what felt unbearable becomes, quite simply, manageable. And the moment you gain that distance, most of what felt unbearable becomes, quite simply, manageable. Because perspective, more than any clever comeback or perfect boundary, is often the fastest path back to your own peace.